Hey everybody, welcome back to a chemistry video, another round of exciting YouTube videos starring me, myself, Mr. Wilson. I know you look forward to these every day because I am amazing. If you can see me virtually on your screen and in real life, I mean, there's nothing better than that. Today we're talking about covalent compounds. Covalent compounds. So that should be the title of your notes, is covalent compounds. Make sure you're taking notes. Don't forget you can use your notebooks on the test. So if you don't have notes, it's going to be unfortunate. Covalent compounds. By now, you have heard that dihydrogen monoxide should be banned. Some people said it shouldn't be banned, but now you realize it shouldn't be banned because dihydrogen monoxide is water. Hear that? That's water. We have water, dihydrogen monoxide. It's called dihydrogen monoxide because that is the scientific name for water because it is a covalent compound. Now you're probably wondering, what in the world is a covalent compound? Well, let's find out. A covalent compound is a compound involving two or more nonmetals. A compound involving two or more nonmetals. Now, if you remember back when we talked about elements, compounds, and mixtures, elements is just like one individual element. A compound is two elements that combine to form something else. So if we took these two elements and combined to form something else, that would form a compound. And when we're forming covalent compounds, we are forming compounds between nonmetals. That is an important note, nonmetals. So this is a nonmetal. Everything in green is a nonmetal. So pause the video for a minute and make sure you either draw a periodic table in your notebook or highlight in your periodic table you have where our nonmetals are, because that is what is involved in covalent compounds. So only the elements in green can be involved in a covalent compound. Okay, deleted. Covalent compounds. Now it's happening between two nonmetals, like I said. So we could have hydrogen and oxygen bonded together. That would be H2O, and that would be a covalent compound. Why? Because hydrogen and oxygen are both nonmetals. Therefore, it would be a covalent compound. Another example would be if you bonded together nitrogen and chlorine. That would be a covalent compound because nitrogen's over here, chlorine is down here. Two nonmetals bonding together is a covalent compound. Now, covalent compounds, when they come together, they form covalent bonds. It's fitting, right? Covalent compounds, covalent bonds, it all works together. Covalent compounds, covalent bonds, it works, it's fine. So covalent bonds, this means that atoms or elements like hydrogen and oxygen are sharing electrons. So in order to form a compound, you remember how we talked about valence electrons? Valence electrons out here, like oxygen has 6. Covalent compounds come together via covalent bonds, and they share their electrons. So both people are benefiting, or both elements are benefiting from the arrangement. They're sharing, just like you were taught to share when you were like a little kid. You would share your toy, both people get to use the toy, and it's awesome. Sharing is great. Sharing electrons, same thing. Oxygen and hydrogen, if they come together in water, H2O, they both share their valence electrons, and both get to use those valence electrons, and then they are happy. Now, how we know how much they share is based on the element. We're not going to get too far into that today, but just remember that every element wants 8 valence electrons. So if oxygen is sharing with hydrogen, it wants to make sure that by sharing, it's going to reach its 8 valence electrons. So that's an important thing to remember. All elements want 8 valence electrons. So that's why they're going to form these bonds, is to try to get 8 valence electrons. Now, if you don't understand to this point, this is where you pause, but I think so far it's been pretty clear in terms of covalent compounds and covalent bonds. Covalent compounds between nonmetals, covalent bonds, they're sharing electrons. Now, there's specific ways that we name covalent compounds. Dihydrogen monoxide, that's using prefixes. So now we're moving from covalent compounds, just on your same page, we're still talking about covalent compounds, we're naming covalent compounds. When we name covalent compounds, we use prefixes. There are 2 rules for naming covalent compounds. We need prefixes and the second element in the compound ends in "ide." So we got to alter the name so that we have prefixes and the second element in the compound ends in "ide." So make sure you pause so you could write that down. The prefixes that we use. Prefix for 1 is mono, 2 is di, 3 is tri, 4 is tetra, 5 is penta, 6 is hexa, 7 is hepta, 8 is octa, 9 is nona, and 10 is deca. Make sure you take those down. I'm going to delete them in just a second. 10 is deca. Those are prefixes. Prefixes are what come before a word. So like dihydrogen, that means there's 2 hydrogens because we have dihydrogen. Prefixes come before the word. Like in bicycle, bi would be the prefix before cycle, you know, things like that. Tricycle, it means it has 3 wheels, you know, things like that. So those are our prefixes. I'm about to delete it. But remember our rules: prefixes and the second element ending in "ide." So let's do some examples. The example we already did, dihydrogen monoxide. Hydrogen monoxide. Now if you have your notes, you'll see di is the prefix for 2, so that would be hydrogen. We know there are 2 hydrogens, so it's going to be H2. And then mono is the prefix for 1 and oxygen, so H2O. Whoops, O. Okay, H2O. It's H2O because we have dihydrogen, which is H2, monoxide. So that's 1O. Don't forget, we have to end the second word in "ide, so that's why it's not monoxygen, it's monoxide. Okay? Dihydrogen monoxide is H2O. If we had N3F6, because those are both nonmetals, so that's a covalent compound, it would be trinitrogen, nitrogen, hexafluoride. Don't forget the "ide, because it's 3 nitrogens and 6 fluorines, so it's trinitrogen hexafluoride. We'll do 2 more examples, then you're going to do some. We'll do S8Cl4. Again, sulfur is over here, chlorine's over here, both nonmetals. So it'd be octasulfur, and then tetrachlor. How am I going to end it? Ide. Octasulfur tetrachloride. So that would be S8Cl14. Okay, you're going to do a few examples on your own. Make sure you understand. Pause the video so you can do them. Do dinitrogen trisulfide. What is that? What is dinitrogen trisulfide? And then what is no, we'll go tri. No, we'll go tetra. I can never make up my mind. Tetra, fluorine, hepta, bromide. What are those 2? We'll go back to this one. Dinitrogen, that means we have nitrogen and 2. Trisulfide, that means we have S with 3. I'm just matching the element with the prefix. Tri gives us this 3. Sulfide shows it's sulfur. Nitrogen, N, di, 2. Tetrafluorine, so that's F. Tetra is 4. Heptabromide, so that's bromine, which is Br. And hepta is 7. See how we're getting that? Hopefully you paused and did those. What would O6F2 be? What would N3S4 be? And what would H2S6 be? Do those 3. Pause it, do those 3. Okay, this is hexaoxygen difluoride. This is trinitrogen tetrasulfide. And this is dihydrogen hexasulfide. Where am I getting those? O, oxygen. So oxygen comes from the O, hexa comes from the 6, fluoride comes from the fluorine, 2 di, nitrogen N tri 3, sulfide S 4 tetra, di comes from that 2, hydrogen from the H, hexa from the 6, sulfide from the S. So those are some practice ones. Once you get this, first off, once you have finished this video, if you finish this video all the way through, when you are done, I want you to get up from your seat as soon as this video is over, find a whiteboard anywhere in the room and a marker, and I want you to write one example of a covalent compound on that whiteboard and then put your initials next to it. So if I was going to do it, I would get up, pretend this is a whiteboard, and I would write like the bonding of two nonmetals together, so I could write like N3O4. That would be an example. I could also write the same thing. I could write tri-nitrogen tetra oxide. So I could write either version of that. I just want you to write any example of a covalent compound up on a board and be prepared to explain it. But in order to get credit for watching this video, I hope you finish it and go write that on a whiteboard somewhere. Put your initials by it. Any example of any covalent compound. Quick reminder, covalent compounds, nonmetals. Covalent bonds are sharing electrons. And yes, after you've written that on the board, I know you're ready to move on, and we will rock and roll. I'm out.